The interview did 780 views. 780. A full day up on Hot 107.9 Atlanta, Mia Simone sitting there giving Claressa Shields a full platform, the whole camera setup, the whole rollout, the whole podcast studio energy. And the number the internet cared enough to click was 780. That is not a stat. That is a verdict. Because when the self-proclaimed greatest woman of all time sits down for a full sit-down and the algorithm cannot even find 1,000 people willing to press play in 24 hours, what you are looking at is not an interview anymore. You are looking at a receipt. And the receipt is telling you something that Claressa Shields has been refusing to hear for a year and a half straight. The culture has clocked out on this storyline, and the only people still tuning in are the ones tuning in to laugh, to clip, to react, and to keep score. And that is before we even get to what she actually said in the interview. Because inside those 780 views is a run of statements so cluttered, so contradictory, so obviously scripted in her own head that Claressa is now inventing rumors about herself just to have something to deny. Rumors nobody was saying. Rumors nobody was posting. Rumors that only exist inside her interview, so she can play the victim of them in the same breath. And on top of that, she took a shot at Remy Ma, a shot she thought was slick, a shot she thought was buried, a shot she thought nobody would catch, and I caught it. The internet caught it, and today we are going to walk through exactly what she said, exactly who she was talking about, and exactly why the woman she was throwing shade at is winning this entire cultural war without ever having to say Claressa's name out loud. And by the time we get to the piece of this where Papoose's name is being announced as her opponent in her own fight, yes, you heard that right, the intro package to promote her August fight at State Farm Arena literally names Papoose and not Kaye Scott, you are going to understand that this is not a woman in a relationship. This is a woman in a hostage situation she keeps decorating. Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit like, and subscribe. Let's get into it. Now let me set the whole table properly, because if you are new here or if you have only caught pieces of this story, you deserve the full context before we go into the receipts. Claressa Shields is a legitimate, undisputed, historically dominant boxing champion. That part is not up for debate. She is the GWAT in the ring. She is fighting Kaye Scott, spelled K-Y-E, on August 15th at State Farm Arena in Atlanta, dropping 3 weight classes for a unified middleweight title shot, and that fight card is real. The tickets are on Ticketmaster, and DAZN is broadcasting it. The problem is not her boxing career. The problem is everything happening outside the ring. Because for over a year now, Claressa has been publicly attached to Papoose, the Brooklyn rapper who was, until very recently, married to Remy Ma for over a decade. Papoose filed for divorce from Remy Ma on May 22, 2025, according to multiple outlets, citing irreconcilable differences and alleging infidelity. Remy Ma responded by publicly offering to pay for his divorce lawyer if he could not afford one, and suggesting Claressa could chip in. And that is not me being funny, that is a matter of public record, reported by Thegrio and iHeart and multiple credible outlets. So the stakes here are enormous, and they exist on 4 levels at once. On the personal level, you have a woman about to walk into the biggest domestic fight of her career while her personal life is on fire in ways she cannot stop pretending are not on fire. On the reputation level, you have a champion whose brand is discipline, focus, and being the greatest of all time. And that brand is currently being dragged through comment sections not because of her boxing, but because she cannot stop talking about a man who is still legally married to somebody else. On the cultural level, you have the internet, Black Twitter, Black Instagram, Black TikTok, all of it, collectively deciding that Remy Ma is the woman being wronged here, and once the culture picks a side that hard, that fast, that unanimously, you do not come back from that with an interview on Hot 107.9. You do not come back from that at all. And on the financial level, the level Claressa refuses to look at, you have a woman with 4 contracted fights, an $8 million deal on the line, and a partner who is now being named as her co-fighter in her own promo material. That is not romance. That is a business entanglement that is going to cost her real money. So when she sits down with Mia Simone and gets 780 views in 24 hours, what you are watching is a culture that has already moved on trying to tell her something she is not equipped to hear. And the tension driving this entire situation is one simple question. Is Claressa Shields capable of shutting up long enough to protect her own career? Or is she going to talk her way out of the biggest bag of her life while a rapper's estranged wife walks off with the culture in her back pocket? Let me walk you through what the interview actually showed us, piece by piece, because the evidence is stacking in real time. Piece number 1, the view count itself. 780 views in 24 hours on a full interview from a legitimate Atlanta media outlet with a promoted post-rollout. For context, the shorter clips from that same interview that were reposted by shade pages and commentary channels are pulling significantly more traction than the source interview. That is not a media problem. That is a public referendum. The people who are engaging with this content are engaging with it to critique it, not to consume it. The clips outperforming the source is the algorithm politely telling Claressa that the audience has migrated from her to the people talking about her. That is a devastating signal, and the fact that she is not reading it is why we are here today. Piece number 2, the intro video. Before Miaja Simone even gets into the actual conversation, they roll a promotional tease. And in that tease, the promoter or the setup segment says, and I am quoting the substance here, that Claressa Shields and Papoose are getting ready to have a fight on August 15th at State Farm Arena. Papoose. Not Kaye Scott. Papoose. The rapper. The man she is dating. Named as her opponent in her own fight promo. Now think about how that happens. That does not happen by accident. That happens because Papoose has been so aggressively injected into every corner of her professional life that even the media covering her cannot separate them. Her fight is being marketed as a couple. Her career is being scripted through him. And when I tell you that this man is running circles around this woman, this is the receipt. This is the evidence. Your opponent has a name. Her name is Kaye Scott. She is Australian, she is a real fighter, she is dangerous, and you have a co-main event happening in your own personal life that is stealing her billing. This is not a good look. This is a woman whose career is being emotionally hijacked, and she thinks it is a love story. Piece number 3, the pregnancy conversation. Miaja asks Claressa about kids. Claressa says she wants 4. She says she is having 1 next year. She says Papoose said, all right, Papoose himself does not appear on camera saying it. He is in the room, allegedly, and the camera never cuts to him. Not once. Not for the baby question. Not for anything. And then Claressa pivots, completely unprompted, into a whole monologue about freezing eggs, about how women in their 40s can still have babies, about how Miaja, who literally just said she was in her early 30s, has plenty of time. Why are we talking about a 43-year-old freezing eggs when the woman across from you said she was in her early 30s? Anybody want to guess who is 40-something? Anybody want to guess whose fertility that side comment is aimed at? This was not accidental. This was a shot. Aimed low. Aimed cheap. And aimed at the one woman who has been sitting quietly winning this entire thing without ever having to raise her voice. Piece number 4, the manufactured rumors. Claressa sits there and tells Miaja the rumors about her are crazy. She has been pregnant 4 times, allegedly, according to the rumor mill she just invented. Papoose has been putting hands on her, allegedly, according to the rumor mill she just invented. Family and friends, listen to me, nobody was saying that. Go pull up the timeline. Go pull the comment sections. Go pull the shade pages. Nobody was accusing Papoose of putting hands on Claressa Shields. She is a professional boxer. If they got physical in real life, we all know who is winning that. What people were saying, the actual rumors, the ones she carefully avoided quoting, were that she is still involved with a legally married man, that she tried to befriend his wife before all this, and that this entire relationship is an image project rather than a real romance. So what she did in that interview was manufacture a set of fake rumors that are easy to deny, so she could sit there and be the victim of rumors she made up, so she never has to answer the real ones. That is not media training. That is manipulation. And oh, do I have more? Because the next layer of this is where the whole thing really cracks open. And I need the Papoose defenders, the 4 of you left, to hold on to something before I run this. Because the shade she tried to throw at Remy Ma, I am about to play it back to you word for word, and I am about to show you exactly why it landed on nobody but herself. Let me get into the cultural layer of this. Because the internet, the collective, the culture, the audience, has already rendered a verdict on this entire situation, and Claressa is the last person on earth to realize it. Cultural evidence piece number 1, the Shade Room. The Shade Room has been posting this couple with commentary sections that are essentially united in one direction, and I am not exaggerating. Under every Shade Room post about Claressa and Papoose, the comments are Remy Ma edits, Remy Ma quotes, Remy Ma bar drops from her recent tracks, and jokes about Papoose looking like he is doing community service every time he stands next to Claressa. The Shade Room does not create that consensus. The Shade Room reflects it. When one comment section after another lines up on the same side of a story with that kind of unanimity, what you are watching is the culture already voting. Cultural evidence piece number 2, The BET Awards moment. Claressa and Papoose showed up to the BET Awards. Papoose had a look on his face that the internet described in some very colorful ways. Disconnect. Detachment. Somebody said he looked like he was scanning the room for exits. Somebody else said he looked like a man attending his own funeral. And when Claressa lost her category, Sportswoman of the Year, allegedly to Aya Wilson, she reposted a story on her Instagram tagging BET, essentially picking a fight with the network that had just invited her. Papoose, meanwhile, allegedly posted something questioning why her achievements were not being properly recognized, which she then reposted. So now you have a woman who did not win an award blaming the network that hosted her, and a partner defending her online while apparently scanning the audience in person for somebody else. Reportedly. And then in the follow-up interview, she sits there and tries to argue that people who saw the photos where Papoose looked disengaged just doctored them or interpreted them wrong. Girl. Nobody edited that face. That face was authored by that face. Cultural evidence piece number 3, the Remy Ma songs. Remy Ma has been dropping bars. Not subtweets. Not IG stories. Bars. In songs. And those bars have been landing with the culture in a way that Claressa's entire media tour has completely failed to. When Claressa sat in that Hot 107.9 interview and said, quote, "People are clout chasing, doing little songs about us, joining the hate train," that was Remy. Everybody knows it was Remy. She did not have the courage to name Remy because naming Remy in an interview would give Remy exactly the smoke Remy wants and Claressa is scared of. Remy is a battle rapper. Remy came up in an era where you did not survive without being able to end somebody in 16 bars. And Claressa, whose comfort zone is a boxing ring, is trying to fight this woman in a battlefield Remy owns. That is the mismatch nobody is talking about. Claressa has the belts, Remy has the pen, and pens have longer memories than belts do. Cultural evidence piece number 4, the industry silence. And this one is louder than any of the noise. When was the last time a major, respected, credible female rapper publicly co-signed Claressa's version of events? When has Latto stepped in? Where is Megan? Where is any of the female hip-hop establishment that Claressa keeps name-dropping as her supporters? They're shouting her out for boxing, sure. But not one of them has stepped in and defended the relationship. Not one has publicly co-signed Papoose. That silence is not neutral. In hip-hop, silence in the face of a beef is a stance. And the entire industry has quietly stepped back and let Remy Ma have this one because they know who was there first, who put in the years, and who the culture belongs to. Now, I know some of you are going to say, well, they just do not want to get involved. And that is exactly my point. They do not want to get involved because getting involved on Claressa's side is a losing bet with the culture, and everybody in that industry knows how to read a room. If she was winning the culture, they would be there. She is not, so they are not. And I want to acknowledge the counter-argument here, because I do not want to be one of those creators who just runs one side. There are people out there, and I have seen the comments, who will tell you Claressa deserves love, that she is grown, that Papoose is a grown man, that if they filed for divorce it is over, and that everybody needs to move on. I hear you. I do. But here is what dismantles that argument in one line. Until a judge signs the paperwork, this man is still legally married. Reportedly, the divorce was filed in May 2025. Reportedly, it has been slow rolling. Reportedly, Remy publicly offered to pay for the lawyer, which tells you everything about where the actual pace of that divorce is coming from. So the "he's a grown man" defense collapses the second you look at the paperwork, and the "let people love" defense collapses the second you remember that one of the people involved in the love is not free to love yet. That is not a cultural judgment. That is a filing status. And the culture is not moving until the filing status does. Now I need everybody to shift gears with me for a second, because everything up to this point has been about interviews and shade and comment sections and photos. That is the surface. That is the drama layer. What I am about to walk you through is the layer of the story that almost nobody in the commentary space is talking about, because it requires you to understand how the business of this actually works. And once you see it, you are not going to be able to unsee it. The real story here is not a love triangle. The real story here is a contract entanglement wearing a love triangle costume. Let me break it down. Claressa Shields has, by her own repeated statements and by widely reported industry sources, a promotional and management structure around her career that has been increasingly connected to Papoose over the past year. She has publicly denied that Papoose manages her. She has publicly denied that Papoose has any professional role in her career. But every time she does an interview, his name gets attached to her business, including in the promotional intro for her own fight. Now think about what that means practically. If Papoose has any kind of formal or informal management, consulting, or promotional role, whether through a company he controls or through any advisory structure, then any money Claressa earns from that $8 million deal she keeps referencing has a claim attached to it. And that claim does not go away when the romance goes away. That is the systemic angle nobody is running. Layer 1 of the business analysis, the contract entanglement. In boxing, and in music, and in every corner of the entertainment industry, the moment you attach a romantic partner to your revenue streams, you have created a legal instrument that survives the relationship. Ask any lawyer. Ask any music executive. Ask anybody who has ever untangled a partnership after a breakup. Contracts do not care about feelings. If Papoose is on any paperwork, as a manager, as a consultant, as a promoter, as a producer of anything related to her brand, then when this ends, and I say when because in boxing entanglements like this always end, he walks away with a percentage. And Claressa, based on her own public statements about how much this fight and the surrounding deal are worth, is playing with a lot more money than she seems to understand. $8 million is not a number you casually let a boyfriend attach himself to. Layer 2 of the business analysis, the Remy divorce situation. Remy Ma has been legally married to Papoose for over a decade. In marital law, particularly in New York, marital assets accumulated during the marriage are subject to division. Papoose's earnings during the marriage, from his rap career, from any management or advisory roles, from any business ventures, are, generally speaking, marital property until a court says otherwise. Which is why Remy publicly offered to pay for his divorce lawyer. That was not a joke. That was a chess move. She was signaling to the culture and to the courts and to Claressa that she is not in a rush, that she is playing a longer game, and that any assets Papoose is building right now, including any income he is earning off proximity to Claressa's brand, are potentially still on her side of the ledger until the paperwork is finalized. Do you understand what that means? It means that every dollar Papoose is currently earning off Claressa's success is a dollar Remy has a potential claim on. Which means Claressa is not just funding her boyfriend. She is, arguably, funding her boyfriend's ex-wife's divorce settlement. That is the layer nobody has run publicly, and it is the layer that makes this whole thing a masterclass in cultural chess by Remy and a masterclass in career self-sabotage by Claressa. Layer 3 of the business analysis, the narrative economy. This is where it gets really interesting, and this is where I want you to pay attention. In the modern entertainment industry, narrative is currency. The stories that circulate about you determine your press coverage, your endorsement offers, your streaming revenue, your ticket sales, and your long-term brand equity. Right now, the narrative economy around Claressa Shields is being manufactured in real time by her own interviews. Every time she sits down and talks about Papoose instead of boxing, she is training the algorithm, Google, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, all of them, to associate her name with relationship drama rather than athletic dominance. That is a catastrophic long-term brand decision. Because in 5 years, when she is done boxing, the search engine memory of her career will be shaped by what she said in the last 2 years of her boxing life. And right now, she is telling the algorithm to remember her as somebody's girlfriend, not as somebody's champion. That is not a business decision that a manager who cared about her would let happen. Which brings us right back to the question, what is Papoose's actual role here, and why is the woman with the money making the moves that only benefit the man without it? Put those 3 layers together and step back. You have a champion attaching a legally married man to her career. You have a legally married man whose estranged wife has a claim on his current earnings. You have a narrative economy being systematically drained of the very brand equity that makes Claressa Shields valuable in the first place. And you have an entire commentary ecosystem that keeps talking about the drama and never once talks about the money. That is the story. That is what nobody is running. That is what I promised you at the top of this video we were going to get to, and here we are. Now here is the truth bomb, and I want everybody to sit with this for a second, because it is the piece that reframes everything you have watched over the last year and a half. The reason Claressa Shields cannot stop talking about Papoose is not because she is in love. It is because she has built her current identity around the relationship, and she cannot separate her personal brand from him anymore without admitting the whole last year has been a mistake. Read that again. She is not defending a relationship. She is defending a decision. And the two things are not the same. Because think about it. If this was really a happy, healthy, private relationship, the kind of relationship people who are actually in love have, you would not need to defend it in every interview. You would not need to bring your partner to every event. You would not need to name drop him in your fight promo. You would not need to sit on a couch and script fake rumors so you could deny them. Happy people are boring people. They do not have to explain themselves. They just live. What Claressa is doing is not living. It is campaigning. She is running a public relations campaign to convince the internet that she made the right choice a year ago, and every failed interview, every empty view count, every deflection, every eye roll from the culture is telling her she did not. And this is where it gets sad, because there is a version of Claressa Shields, the one that existed before this, that was untouchable. The greatest women's boxer of her generation. Undefeated. Historic. Culturally beloved. That woman could have done anything. Signed any endorsement, hosted any special, walked into any room and been the smartest athlete in it. That woman got traded, in the marketplace of public perception, for a version of Claressa that spends her interviews playing defense on somebody else's marriage. Reportedly, that is the trade. That is what she gave up. And she does not see it because she is inside it. And nobody around her will tell her because everybody around her is on her payroll, and you do not tell the person signing the checks that the checks are getting smaller. The mainstream media will not run this story either, and here is why, because the mainstream media makes money off the drama. The Shade Room makes money off the posts. The gossip channels make money off the clips. The interview shows make money off booking her. Nobody in the ecosystem around her has a financial incentive to tell her that the ecosystem itself is the problem. She is a product. Everybody is selling her. Nobody is protecting her. And the one person who has been telling this story with a knife's edge of clarity, Remy Ma, is the one person Claressa refuses to name, because naming her would validate her, and validating her would end this. So instead we get little veiled shots about clout chasers and little songs and Claressa sitting there thinking she is being subtle when the entire culture read the caption before she finished writing it. That is the truth bomb. That is the part one promised you back at the top. Claressa Shields is not losing to Remy Ma. She is losing to herself. And Papoose is the mirror she keeps looking into to avoid the reflection. But here is where I want to bring this in for a landing, because this is not a story about a villain. This is a story about someone who is winning even without trying, and that person is Remy Ma. Remini Mafia, put respect on it. Because while everybody else is on the couch, Remy is in the studio. While everybody else is in interviews, Remy is dropping bars. While everybody else is performing love, Remy is performing craft. And that contrast is the whole story of this. One woman is fighting to prove she is happy. The other woman is quietly demonstrating she does not need to prove anything at all. Think about the discipline Remy has shown through this. She has not sat down for a 15-minute sit-down interview where she gets caught contradicting herself. She has not manufactured fake rumors about herself to deny. She has not tagged BET in a temper tantrum after losing an award. She has not needed a partner in the room to help her look loved. She has taken the entire drama, distilled it into music, released it, let the culture stream it, and then gone right back to her life. That is what somebody who has already won looks like. Somebody who has already won does not need to keep proving it. And that discipline, that quiet, unfazed, methodical, do my job and let the work talk discipline, is what is making the culture line up behind her without her ever having to ask. One woman makes interviews that make her look smaller. The other makes songs that make her look larger than the fight itself. And what you are seeing right now, in real time, is the correction. The correction of a narrative that was never going to hold. The correction of a public that was briefly confused about who the wronged party was, and has now made up its mind clearly and permanently. The correction of a marketplace that will, over the next 12 months, quietly stop booking Claressa for the non-boxing appearances, quietly stop offering her the endorsement deals that were on the table before this all started, and quietly redirect that flow toward the woman who has kept her dignity intact. Reportedly. Watch it happen. I am telling you now so you can watch it happen. Because in 6 months you are going to look up and you are going to see Remy on more magazine covers, more brand deals, more soundtrack placements, more of everything that used to be flowing toward Claressa, and you are going to remember I said this here first. That is what integrity does. That is what patience does. That is what letting the work speak looks like in a culture that has forgotten what it looks like. And the fact that Remy has done all of this while barely raising her voice in a public statement is what will make this a case study people are running in 5 years. Because the loudest woman lost, and the quietest woman won, and the whole thing happened in slow motion right in front of everybody. If you have made it to this point in the video, you are amazing. You are the reason I keep making these. Because you are the ones who actually want the full picture, not just the clip. You are the ones who want to understand the business, not just the beef. And you are the ones who I know are going to be back here when the next chapter of this drops. Because there is a next chapter. There is always a next chapter with these two. Here is what I am watching for over the next few weeks. Number 1, that August 15th fight at State Farm Arena. Because whether Claressa wins that fight or loses it, the reaction is going to tell us everything. If she wins, watch how she frames the victory. Watch who she thinks. Watch whether the interview after the fight is about boxing or about her relationship. Because the answer to that question is going to tell you how deep the identity trap has gone. And number 2, I am watching the divorce proceedings. Reportedly slow-rolling. Reportedly complicated. But when that paperwork finalizes, whenever it finalizes, the entire dynamic of this changes. Because the still married defense that the culture has been running to protect Remy loses its legal footing the second a judge signs. And at that point, we find out who Claressa really is when she does not have that particular fight to distract with. That is when the mask really comes off. That is when we see if she is actually a champion or just a woman who is performing one. So subscribe, because you are going to want to be here when both of those chapters land. Turn the notifications on because these stories move fast, and I do not want you catching the update 3 days late from a clip page. And go check the video that is going to pop up right after this one, because I put together a full breakdown of what really happened at that BT Awards moment, the look on Papoose's face, the reposts, the Shade Room comment section, and the one detail from the seating chart that nobody caught, but that changes how you read the entire night. It is the piece that connects everything you just heard to something even bigger, and once you watch that one, you are going to see exactly why this story is only getting started. Click it. I will see you in the next one.